Right, hello, my name is Jeff Cordwell, and what I want to do here is just talk briefly about how my Platinum Package course will help you pass this magnificent paper that is APM. And my course has three, I suppose, basic elements. One is tuition, a tuition course, which I'll talk about in a moment. Second, I suppose, is revision. And then the third is, I suppose, the support that envelops all that. Yeah, you're not buying a passive external product where you never have any contact with the tutor. I am constantly hovering over all this through WhatsApp with support for your questions, and we'll talk about exactly how that works as we go along. The first part, therefore, is inside the triangle, if you like, which is tuition. Now, tuition traditionally would be viewed, I suppose, as the part of a program or the part of a course that provides you with knowledge. And certainly that's very important. And I'll talk about the tuition notes when we get to that part of the presentation. But with APM, I believe it's really important quite early to also be exposed to what I describe as critical skills. These go beyond exam techniques. That's really too tame a phrase in my view. Because to pass APM, yes, you need knowledge. And certainly the examiner suggests that 15% of the exam paper is driven by knowledge. But it's more than that really, because you need to be able to apply that knowledge. And in order to score marks, you need to be super careful with the concept of justification. The idea behind APM, remember, because it's a management accounting paper, everything that's within the syllabus, isn't bound by an IFRS. There are no concrete rules, and you have to appreciate that. And therefore, when you're making statements surrounding the paper, you might say something like incremental budgeting is better in stable environments, for example, a point that I probably agree with. That won't score unless you justify. And I think an early appreciation within the tuition course about where you need to justify is really, really important. And so I've incorporated that within tuition and not left it, as is, I suppose, traditional, to revision. I believe personally it's a bit too late for that. Equally, within tuition, it's important to get some practice. So there are some questions. I'll talk about them in more detail in a moment, but it's important to be able to practice and progress and get better leading to a full revision course where, yes, there's, these critical skills come back, and yes, question practice gets more important, and yes, marking gets more important, and yes, there's a mock exam as well, which you won't have seen before. But tuition, if you like, provides the underpinning principles upon which revision can then be built. So that's broadly speaking, I think, where the Platinum Package course sits. You've got tuition, you have revision, and then you have WhatsApp support sat over all that. So confident am I that as long as you meet the terms and conditions, which broadly say you've got to work hard and you've got to achieve 40% in the exam, that if in the end you fail, and if you've met the terms and conditions, so you've worked hard, then I'll give you another go for free at the next sitting. I mean, it's quite a confident thing to say if you think about it, and it's consistent, I think, within the FME family that we do that. Let's talk about what is needed to pass APM. I mean, and I've already mentioned that knowledge is about 15%. Certainly, without the knowledge, you cannot succeed. And my tuition notes are written with the exam in mind. Without question, they are much more applied, they are much more focused on what the examiner is looking for than you might find, for example, in a textbook. Textbook is 200 and something thousand words, whereas my tuition material is approximately 30,000 words. And that might seem quite a low number, but then don't forget it's all supported by video, which explains everything. It's much, much, much more focused and can give you the knowledge that you need. And also, by the way, as a passing point, really, it does include anything from PM that might be examinable in APM. So you don't have to worry about going off and buying books to help you with PM if you were exempt, for example. The other thing I would say is that in order to pass the exam, you need to be able to apply yourself to a particular business. The examiner has an attitude about APM and about accountants and about industry. And he tends to think, I think, that an awful lot of accountants in industry aren't doing quite such a good job. And what you need to be able to do as a future accountant is be better in a particular industry. So everything has to be applied to a particular industry. Yeah. Is incremental budgeting appropriate in this business? Is zero-based budgeting appropriate in this business? Is this KPI appropriate here? So you must be able to relate your knowledge to the specifics inside a question, and then of course add value to that to provide an interpretation of that to score the marks. As I mentioned a moment ago, because there is no IFRS, there are no rules, you must be super careful with the concept of justification. Everything that you say is really just your opinion, and you must justify your statements or you will not score. And I believe it's important within tuition that you recognize that. It's important within revision that you recognize that, and therefore it's incorporated within the entire course. Not, if you like, just mentioned in passing. I have specific modules in this program on application and on justification, amongst other things. I mean, there are other things that are included, which might be traditionally, if you like, talked about as exam technique. So yes, I have something on time management. Yes, I have something on structure. There are all sorts of key skills I think needed to pass, but application and justification are probably the two most important things to emphasize at this stage. The tuition resources that you get with this course is that I do provide my own tuition notes, and you can save those, you can download those, and you can print those. There's a clean copy, and there's also an annotated copy, which is consistent with any video that I might provide. Application, as I've already mentioned, is so important, but so therefore what I've produced is application mini exercises, ones, if you like, for you to do, and confidence boosters, yeah, which are there to try and make sure that you can apply the knowledge you've just acquired. They've proved hugely beneficial to students and have seen a real good result in terms of pass rates from my courses. Those application exercises are excellent. There's also quizzes to make sure that you do understand the knowledge that you've just acquired. So it isn't a passive program. It's not as though you read a textbook and then you're left to sort of say, do you understand it? I'm going to make sure that you understand it. And a part of that, of course, is homework questions. Some of those are submittable for marking, and some of those are there, if you like, for you to be able to do on your own. And we'll talk about those things in a bit more detail. Yeah. Each topic has some element of the three things that are on the screen there. So sometimes there'll be application exercises, sometimes there'll be quizzes, sometimes there'll be both, and sometimes there'll be homework questions. I've thought about it in detail, and each topic has what it needs for you to be able to pass, I would suggest. Now, these application exercises, let's just talk about those in a bit more detail. Yeah, these are mini exercises to help you learn how to apply your newfound knowledge to the specifics in the question. They're really, really, really important. And I think they're really good at encouraging you to appreciate how to answer a question early on. There's an application exercise where the approach is demonstrated, although you could do it yourself if you wanted to. And there's a confidence booster where you practice for yourself. These things are quite short, 5, 6, 7 minutes length, that's all, in terms of the introduction and looking at the answer. But I'm sure you're going to find them really illuminating in terms of what does this knowledge mean and how can I apply it to a question. Yeah, they're in a large selection of the topics where they're most appropriate. They're not in every single section. That is deliberate. Yeah, some sections don't require quite so much application as others, is what I'm saying, I suppose. The quizzes I tend to be multiple choice, true, false type. Yeah, all of them have answers. All of them have explanations of where you might have gone wrong. And I think they'll be quite useful from the point of view, well, do I understand, for example, transfer pricing? That's a section that has a quiz within it, for example. The tuition homework questions are all shorter than they are for the real exam. I, I think it's unrealistic to expect someone who's just started to do APM to grapple with a 25 marker or a 50 marker. And I made that decision some time ago now, and it's proved really popular and very, if you like, aggressive. Because if you can manage a 10-mark question, a 12-mark question, then the next step up is perhaps a full question. And it helps people see how to approach something without being overfaced with too much material. Some of them are submittable, so I will mark them and I will provide feedback. That feedback is so important, so important. Yeah. You might expect some written feedback and you might expect some verbal feedback through a voice message through WhatsApp. I think I'm probably right in saying that the level of support that you get will surprise you. There is lots and lots and lots of feedback. How can you do better? Which parts have you done well? This is important. There are 5 submittable questions at the moment in tuition at the time of recording this. That might change, of course, might get more. And there are then 6 other non-submittable questions, which are for self-review. All of these questions are fully debriefed. So you do get a question, you get my answer, not the examiner's own answer. Yeah, you get a debrief video talking about how the question could have been interpreted and how the answer could have been done. It's good material from that point of view, I'm sure. One of the big challenges, I think, for students is, well, am I keeping up to date? Am I on target? And what I tend to do is deal with the problem that tuition course students start at different points. And what I tend to do then, therefore, is I'll speak to everybody when they first enrol. But once we get to 10 weeks before the exam, 20% of the syllabus needs to have been covered. Now, for some people, they might have been on the course 3 or 4 weeks by then, and therefore have got quite an easy ride to their first checkpoint. Others might have only enrolled the week before, and therefore they need to get going. Yeah, so I provide detailed targets, yeah, of where you need to be by when in order for you to be ready to start revision. And incidentally, 20%, you can see it's about 20% per week there, can't you? Represents in my course about 4 topics and therefore about 6 hours of study. And I believe that is reasonable. Yeah, I think you need to be able to spend somewhere between an hour and 2 hours per topic. And each Monday, consistent with these targets, I report back to the group and say, look, this is where you are, anonymized, admittedly, using a red, amber, green system. Red, you're behind. Amber, you're close to being behind. You're a little behind, but nothing too serious. And green, well done. Yeah, you're on top of this. And that's proved very popular. It's a little sort of like prompt to do a little bit more work when you need it. It's no good getting to revision and you've only discovered 40% of the syllabus, because then you're in trouble. You won't necessarily then have the knowledge in order to go through revision effectively. I do use WhatsApp extensively, both a group, so all the students are in that group for a cohort, and they're free to ask technical questions, which I will answer. I don't ban students from commenting, but I really do expect them to know their ground if they are going to comment on someone else's question. So you've got to be super confident and super careful about that. But also, of course, I don't prevent direct message. So if you've got a personal issue, yeah, or there's some kind of problem with the way the course is working for you, then you're free to direct message me. I think one of the things that is, unique about FME is this direct contact with the tutor. I wrote this material, this is my course, and you can contact me directly. On revision, because everybody in revision starts roughly at the same point and must obviously end at the same point, there is a detailed timetable. a set start date. You're allowed to work around that a little bit, but where there are submittable questions, you need to have met the deadline. Yeah. All revision questions, yeah, are full questions, 25 marks or 50 marks. And out of the 16 on the course, 4 of them are marked roughly once a week. Roughly. You have to look at the timetable to fully appreciate that. There might be 2 in 1 week, and then a question, then a question. And there's a technical reason for that. Can't be spread out entirely evenly because the last weekend has to be for the mock exam. So I have to front load it a little bit, which is good, isn't it? Because it gets you working, I suppose. I do supply revision notes. They are consistent with the tuition material, but they're not the same. They're a little shorter, more focused, very succinct. Yeah. And equally, all the critical skills that we see in tuition are repeated in revision because those critical skills don't go away. And of course, I do also provide revision only to some people who maybe have failed with somebody else and want to come back and try to do something else. Yeah. The revision notes include something called topic in 10, the 10 things you must know. You simply must know. Really useful, if you like, for your last minute revision. Topic in 10. What are the 10 things that you must know about divisional reporting? What are the 10 things you must know about budgeting and so forth? And of course, I include a marked mock exam, which is written by me. You won't have seen it before. It's under exam conditions. It's inside TestReach. So it's timed and it uses the same software that the ACCA use for their real exams. And that's a super resource. Yeah. And TestReach is used comprehensively throughout the entire revision course, not only for the mock exam, but also for the revision questions. We encourage the use of TestReach at all times for all questions that you submit to me. So in summary then, therefore, I believe this material is good quality. I believe that the support that you get is almost second to none, frankly. I'd be very surprised if anyone ever came on one of my courses and thought I didn't get the support I needed. I'll always reply to questions, almost always, almost immediately. I work a little bit every single day. I say a little bit, I work every single day, not all day, every day, come on, let's be sensible about this, but I'm always here on and off throughout a day. So I'm always available to answer questions. Yeah, the course is structured, it is succinct. Yeah, you won't have to do any more than you need to, and it's very exam focused. If you have other queries on what I offer, then by all means WhatsApp me direct and we can talk further. Okay, to book, if you want to book, you simply go to fmelearnonline.com, yeah, and you can find the package course or other products there. I look forward to speaking to you.